I'm Nathaniel Sperger with the Women's Business Center of North Carolina, and we have people from Truist here, Vincent Kane and Kaylin Carlton and Jessica Dickens, and they are partnering with us on a series that they do regarding banking and budgeting. We're really happy to have them. If you're here from the cybersecurity program, welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you've already heard my spiel, I'm sorry, but come and spend time with us here at the center, at the Women's Business Center. The best way to do that is by having a one-on-one consultation. And I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'll put our information in the chat, but definitely network with us and spend some time with us on a virtual setting or in a one-on-one consultation or one of our live events. We have a conference coming up in June. It's a great place to network and to meet organizations and to interact with other agencies from the government or nonprofits that help small business. So take advantage of that. The information is on our website. It's on our Eventbrite page as well. And that'll all be in the chat. I'll hand it over to Vincent, and I hope we enjoy this and take advantage of it. Again, I'll send resources later. So if you miss anything, we'll get you the information. So go ahead, Vincent. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, Nathaniel, for the partnership. Thank you for the introduction. And I didn't hear the spiel last time, so that was new to me, so I appreciate it. But no, I welcome everyone this afternoon during this lunch hour. Hopefully you have some food in front of you. This is a lunch and learn. Who'd have thought we're doing lunch and learn virtually? Now, I'm not eating anything because I don't want to be, spitting all over the camera and everything like that. But, this is our opportunity to pause and just think about our own personal finances. I know most of you all were part of a segment that we did last week. And Miss Jessica Dickens, she's on the line as well. Phenomenal presentation. And we are continuing that segment by talking about budgeting and saving strategies today. So my name is Vincent Kane. I'm the multicultural banking leader representing all of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, but we've got new teammates, structures, changing around and whatnot. I bring you greetings from Atlanta, Georgia, and grateful to be with you all this afternoon. And my role with the bank is to work with the Jessicas, work with the Kaylins, work with our internal partners, our branch partners. A lot of conversations happen on a daily basis. And my role is to help those conversations happen outside the building, outside the brick and mortar. So community groups, nonprofit organizations like yourself, police stations, firehouses, libraries, anywhere that the community gathers where these conversations don't happen. I learned the hard way around NSFs by finding out, it was on my bank statement when I was in college. I called my mother, saying, "Who is this on my bank statement?" I didn't like it. I didn't have any money, so it wasn't fair. And also just the ability to ask questions with a banker. And we have some programming that we focus all around just asking questions. But today we're going to home in on budgeting and saving strategies. Many of you are entrepreneurs, business owners, looking to start your own business. And when it comes to budgeting, we all have a household, whether you're a business owner or not a business owner, no matter where you're working, we all have a household. And as we think towards the future, sometimes it's good to just pause and think about what's leaving our household and what is coming into our household. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Also, saving for the future, tips around that. And the question may come up, how much should I save? So we're going to go over that a little bit. And then we'll also provide you with a tool. It's an Excel document where you can go in and you can just plug in where you spend your money on a monthly basis. So you have a picture of it. How many times do we do that? I'm a banker. My wife is the financial person in our household. But sometimes you have to pause and just think about these things, because we get so caught up in the next step and the next drive that sometimes we just got to pause as life is happening all around us, pandemic happening around us. Pandemic is not just COVID. There's pandemic at the gas pump. There's pandemic sometimes we have our own personal financial pandemic. And it's good for us to pause from time to time, be able to go over some of these strategies. So I thank you all for your time, and I hope that you find something valuable out of our time this afternoon. So I'm going to move forward. And in terms of budgeting and savings, let's see here. There are three main strategies when it comes to budgeting and savings. You have to think about, and forgive me as I need to minimize one of the, here we go, wait a minute. There we go. Covers up what I'm trying to talk to you about. So there are three main things that we have to think about when it comes to budgeting. First, of course, there's controlling your spending, then managing your debt and saving for the future. But controlling your spending is something that we have honed in on, especially from a lot of the multicultural segment within the bank. A lot of the teammates who are really devoted to sharing these practices. All while this time of the pandemic was happening, we encouraged a lot of people to pause and think about the ways that they were spending their money. If you're working from home, you're working remotely, and then that school shuts down because someone has been exposed, something has happened. Well, I've got a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. Kids are home, and then they're eating you out of house and home. Happens to me all the time. And you have to think about the ways that you're spending during that time. So we're going to home in on that, and I'm going to give you a tool for that. And then also managing your debt. This is everything that's leaving your home, ways that you can kind of cut down on that. And by doing that, it'll help you to save for your future. So this is a pause while you're eating. Hopefully y'all are eating some lunch. It's lunch hour. Not, maybe you're doing something a little afterwards. But this is our time to pause and think about that. So first, controlling your spending. You want to make your budget real and reasonable. Your budget is it's a map, and you have to stick to your map to get you to where you'd like to go. A lot of times it's easy for us to just jump in the car, and what do? We hit Google Maps, and we just put an address in. And what happens? It tells us the best way to get there. If there's traffic along the way, well, your budget is something similar. Now, we don't have a Google budget. I'm sure that's probably out there. You can Google budget and probably get some things. But what's telling you the best way? It's up to you to think about the best ways to navigate your spending, and navigate how you spend and save. So you want to make sure that it's reasonable. Cutting costs is usually the easiest way to increase disposable income. Know that in the last segment, y'all went through an exercise to calculate what disposable income is. And those funds that are left over after you paid your expenses and your bills, it's not go to Costco money because they're selling the 85-inch TV. No, that's the funds that you're saving for what my dad used to call pickup money. If you're driving, your cars, those brakes might start squeaking. The transmission could start acting up. Those are called pickups. And as you save for this time, it helps you such that you're not taking from what you need to put towards some bills and reallocate from there. I give a personal example. I have an older truck that I drive, and the window went out. The motor, if y'all got some older vehicles, sometimes that window goes down and it just drops and it doesn't go back up. Well, that happened with mine, and I was able to get it to stay back up and prop it up, but it was cold outside. That wasn't something that I needed to get fixed right away. The AC went out. It happened towards the end of last year. Again, it wasn't a need right away, so we kept the windows up and I was able to save such that February, March, as we started to have some better days happening here, I was able to get those things repaired and not tap into the normal activities of my spending that I had going on. So just cutting the costs and being knowledgeable of how you're spending it. And there's also ways that you can make more money. If you've got a skill, if you've got a trait, something that you enjoy doing, of course, many of you are business owners, starting your own business, and you're in that grind right now as far as just getting the business started and moving forward. There may be things that are, that are happening around your neighborhood that you can contribute. I love to cook. So I got a buddy up the street that is skilled with electrical work. So you know what? I hooked him up with a couple slabs of ribs, and he hooked me up with a couple of outlets put in my basement. It's called bartering at the same time, but it was beneficial because we used what we enjoyed and what we knew to be able to help one another. And whether you're doing it to help someone and they do a service in return, or you're doing it just to make a little extra money on the side, home side job. That's something that you can keep in mind, but you want to make sure you do periodic checkups and also make sure you're getting the best deal. Now, we're going to come back to that in just a moment because I want to pivot to an Excel document that we're going to send out to you all after the presentation today that allows you to put your own numbers in, whatever spends you have for the month, and get a visual for what's leaving your home, what's coming into your home. We did it a lot when we focused around budgeting during a crisis. But just like what I said before, pandemic is not over. We've still got a crisis at the gas pump, and we always have our own personal financial crisis, and we can define it in any way that we can. So I'm going to pause and jump to this particular document. So this right here is what we call a crisis budget spreadsheet. Truist has developed this, and it's available on our website. But this is something that you can have and that you can download to your personal device. And you're putting in your own numbers. You've got your expenses. You start with expenses. You start with focusing on what is leaving your home, what's leaving your household. And as you're going through this, you see you've got your rent, your mortgage. You may put some numbers in there. It's tallying those up for your budget deficit or surplus. We're going to get back to that. See the number above it, we're going to calculate that as well. But this is something that you can go through for your own personal, health insurance, life insurance, car insurance, depending upon. I'm just throwing numbers out there. Nothing specific. Car insurance. Hopefully, it's sad that your car insurance is more than health and life insurance. We don't want that to happen. But you're thinking about these are what they call must-have expenses, fixed expenses. These are things that do not change month to month. So these are must-have expenses that we just have to have. You've got debt payments. If you got an auto loan, you're paying like a car, that may be $300 a month. You got a student loan out there, depending on how you have it set up, any credit cards you have out there. Those can be depending on how many that you have. Any other payments that you have that are recurring every month, not changing. These are all fixed payments. Again, we're just getting a gauge for what we do, what our expenses are, what we have leaving our household. Next, you go to what? Variable expenses. Got electricity, whether you're dependent. Kids are home. If you've got some family members that are staying with you during this time, that electricity can go up. Or if you're in an area that has a certain fixed, you can add that to fixed expenses and whatnot. But electricity is a good one. It can be 120. Natural gas, depending upon where you are. It just depends on the actual how you utilize that and what rates and all that good stuff. I'll put maybe 50 right there. Phone plan, groceries, gas for the car. These are all things to think about. Groceries is a big one because as we've been in a shutdown for some time, getting out of it, but we weren't doing as much driving. But if we're home, we're maybe cooking more and maybe ordering more delivery during that time. But groceries is a big thing because we got to eat. And if we've got family members with us, we've got kids in the home more, that's more food that you're having to order. One thing that I talk about a lot is, my wife, she plans meals for the month. Got like a big grid and says what dinner is going to be for every day. Now, if I don't want it, I'll just go find something else to make something home. But it's easy because at the beginning of each week, we see the meals that are going to be needed or prepared, and you can only shop and buy the groceries for those meals or what you need. Don't be like me and go to a grocery store on an empty stomach when you're hungry. Because when you walk into the aisles, we all know you just grabbing stuff, especially snacks. It's like, oh yeah, this be good. By the time you get home, you're so tired you don't even feel like eating anymore. But you bought a whole bunch of stuff that you just didn't need. So the benefit of being able to order groceries like what we used to, or during this time, it saved a lot of money. And I think that during this pandemic, we've learned a lot of things that may help our spend even outside of the pandemic, because we just got a little excited with a lot of the ways that we were spending money. So think about that: groceries. Don't have to buy the expensive water, maybe getting the store brand. But being mindful of the food in your home and how you spend it is a way to definitely cut down on some of the expenses. Gas for the car. We're starting to get out a lot more, maybe travel a little bit more if you're planning a trip, or if you just, depending upon your business, if you're working with other businesses or other organizations, you got to go visit them in person. That's gas for your vehicle. But we also have the beauty of what we're doing right now, and we're on. And I know a lot of us may be Zoomed out or WebExed out, but at the same time, if we're across town and it's just a meeting to kind of bring some minds together, maybe doing a Zoom call, you could save gas on both ends of that. So these are variables that are out there that we can possibly cut down a little bit. Video streaming service, that's another big one. Talk about cable. If you have cable boxes, well, the boxes you're paying rent on, but once you go to like Roku or streaming sticks and so forth, you can save and not have to pay that rent and cut down a lot on your cable bill. And then chips and ice cream, they probably put that there for me because there's a Baskin Robbins right next to my office. I would go there every day. I don't need to go there every day, but these are what they call sanity expenses. I gotta have my mint chocolate chip ice cream. Keep me sane. But that's something that you can budget and think about. But as you go through and you're putting this in, again, we're going to share all this with you. You see the amount of money that's leaving your home. So you got this much amount leaving your home. Well, what do we have to do next? We've got to calculate what's coming into it. Now, the grayed out boxes, don't touch those. The formulas, it'll be calculated for you. Full-time work, if you're starting your own business, if you have your own business, if you're running it, think about that full-time amount that's coming in. I'll throw in maybe $1,200. Part-time work, if you a lot of times when you're starting your own business, you may have some other things that you're doing outside of your own primary business. And you may have some part-time work that you've taken, especially during the time when the holidays come around, companies are hiring, and you're just getting some extra hours. Uber is picking back up. A lot more people are back in the cars and so forth, but still safe. But any part-time work that you have out there, that may generate like an extra 1,000 for you. Childcare, delivery services, that's another big one. Now, I've got a nephew who is graduating from high school this year. He used to finish his classes at 12 o'clock every day. So when the schools are shutting down, there was a need for some virtual tutoring, for some babysitting and so forth. And thus that childcare is something that helps the whole household. Or if it's help that are helping some of the neighbors around you, that's something else to keep in mind. So childcare is something maybe so another $50 out there. Cleaning services, grocery stores. Grocery stores are delivering now, so they're hiring for folks to just pick up some extra hours and do some of that delivering. And virtual tutoring as well, just like what I talked about, that might be $100 coming in. And as you keep going down, well, you've got some items that are just in your home that you may not be using. You may not be actively utilizing them. Like maybe if you got a car just sitting in your driveway, I bet that thing is still eating up insurance. And if you really don't have a need for it, maybe selling that vehicle. Depending upon the type of vehicle you might be able to get. That's That's a low amount for a car, but my 12-year-old is actively looking for the old two-door pickup truck like we used to see back in the day, because he just wants something that he can keep dirty. I bet I could find one for probably $1,500, but nice old, and fix it up and so. Electronics. A lot of our electronics are getting outdated, and we're doing things to sell them, because you got folks that use that and fix a lot of these electronics. So I lump that into a social distant yard sale, and you never know what can come. Maybe the weather's getting better, and you're generating an additional couple $100 from that. This is just from selling some of the things that are around your house, and they can help generate some money for you. Well, if you put all that in your available income, and you're going back, what we see, 4250, and it's automatically telling you if you're in a budget deficit or a surplus. This is after your expenses have gone out, you paid your bills, you've made some sales, some things around your house, you got a little bit of a surplus there. Again, I call it pickup money. Not go buy a bigger TV, but pickup money in case anything around your home. That's another thing. We in our homes longer. You got that drip happening at your faucet. And if you call a plumber, they're gonna charge you to come out and just look at it. And then they'll tell you what's wrong with it. And then they'll tell you what's needed for it. It's good to have a little hiccup money around and available in that sense. So this spreadsheet is something that I home in on. I have it on my phone. I need to use it more, but I want to share it because it's an easy way to see what's leaving your home, what's staying in your home. And then we developed this during the time of the pandemic. So just you can look at a gauge as far as ways that we spent before the pandemic and ways that we can possibly cut down. And these are just some pre-filled numbers that you can take a look at. But when you're thinking about your budget, and I wanted to home in on this, you really have to look at where a lot of the activity is happening. This is one reason why I wanted to jump to this spreadsheet to show just the difference of what we used to do and what we're doing now. And just because the pandemic may be close to being over, may not all the way be over. We have other pandemics out there, but that doesn't mean you have to automatically jump to spending this much more like we used to. So just wanted to keep that in mind. And I will now jump back to talked about controlling your spending. I see some chats, some things happening in the chat box, and the great responses and passive income, keeping things simple, and sanity expenses. Pick up one of everything. I see y'all. So thank y'all for just hopefully you're seeing what's happening in the chat. Side hustle, absolutely. You get some ideas. I see my teammates are dropping these ideas in the chat, and maybe you're getting some ideas around your own spending and what you can do. So next, we're back to our formal presentation, and we talked about spending. But once you go through your spending, what's next? Well, you got to manage your debt. And so in that spreadsheet, we had some areas where we can place some debt payments that we had that were things that these were fixed expenses. Well, one way of creating a successful budget is to set aside funds to pay down your debt. Now, thinking about it this way, and a lot of you probably heard of what they call the snowball effect. You probably talked about it on the last presentation. But think of a set amount that you're paying for your bill. Got the smallest to the largest. That set amount. Got some funds left over. That's your disposable. You can save that, allocate that. But for what's set aside for your bills, you're paying. Once you pay the small one off, don't change that big set amount that's covering all your bills. Take that small amount, add it to the next one. And as you pay that next one off, keep that amount, add it to the next one. You're paying larger towards your debt that you have out there to help you to pay off some of those items a little bit faster. And once you pay off a certain amount of those. It's up to you if you want to start saving a little bit more. It just depends upon the frequency and how your own situation is. Reducing debt can increase your credit score. We're going to talk a lot about that in the next session because it's a part of life. Credit is out there. Credit, it doesn't matter what's going on around pandemic, non-pandemic, there's still credit out there. And none of that has changed in regards to applying for a loan, applying for a credit card, or just something that you may be looking towards in the future. But a good rule of thumb is to use 10% of your monthly income to pay down debt. So if you're able to kind of structure it, so just have your 10% of your monthly income, have these items that you have set out that you're making payments on. Again, start with that smallest one off, and just keep bringing it on up and move forward from there. But the goal is to pay down more than the minimum to speed up the progress. And that's one reason why you pay that small one off, apply it to the next, and you are moving that payment cycle up during that time. Now, also, saving for the future. 10% of your paycheck into an emergency savings fund. This is something where we talked about the bank accounts before and savings accounts. Of course, the question that pops up is, how much should I save? How much do I need to save for this? It depends on your financial situation. It depends on the goals that you have. Sitting down with a financial representative, sitting down with a Jessica, they're going to ask you questions around what are you looking to do in the future? What are your short-term goals? What are your 5-year goals? What are your long-term goals? Y'all went through the SMART analogy in the last segment. And thinking about that such that you can save for the future is something that you want to keep in mind. Setting aside money for a new home, car, or a big purchase. A lot of times the easiest way, if you're able to do it, you have a checking account, you get paid, or you're making deposits, setting up an automatic transfer into a savings account. I like the fact that if it's going to a savings account that I don't see, then it's like you don't see it. It's you're not tempted to touch it, and you are saving that for your future. And setting up a college fund for your children, that's something that the bankers can talk about in regards to the best options around that as well. My strategy is, first of all, let them enjoy what they do. They love hockey. My boys love hockey. So keep doing what you're doing, because I know in the future there might be some hockey scholarships out there. And so that's kind of one of the ways that we think about their future in college and so forth. But it's different for everybody. And contributing to a retirement fund with automatic contributions every pay period. This is just dependent upon if you're working at an employer, if you have your own business, it's going to be something that's set up, and when you set that up, they can explain more in depth as far as how they operate, the benefits behind it. It's all around the tax benefits, but it's also set to help you save for your future. So how much can you save? This is just a breakdown. We want to put a visual out there. You start with $10 a month. Think about $10 a month for a year. Well, after a year, that's $120. Depending upon what's going on, that's $120. That's a good $120 right there. 5 years, that's $600. If this is something that's automatically set up with your bank, set up through your online banking, an automatic transfer of just that amount that you not seeing, you may check it once a year. And you see, oh, wow, it's really getting a little bit in there. If you save $20 every month, how much will you have after 1 year? Think about it. 40 for 1 year, but 5 years, that's $1,200. That's some good hiccup money, especially if you plan other hiccup money. You may have some hiccup money set aside, and that might be an opportunity to maybe go on a small trip or something. Now, I'm not going to say every 5 years. You got to plan for what you do, but you can just see the breakdown, how much you're able to save, how much is applicable to you, and what the potential that you'll be able to do, because it's just math. Great savings of those funds. Now, the next thing is, as you're saving money, we talk about interest. So we talk about understanding interest. So think that you at the beginning of the year, you have $100 sitting in a savings account. The annual interest earned on that account will be $1. You get that after 1 year, and it's told you that total interest earned is $1. So at the end of the year, you had $101. When you start that next year, it's still based on that $100 mark. So you get another dollar. Now you've got $2 total, and the value of that account is $102. So you see how that dollar, you see a total of all the dollars that you've gotten, and it's just growing in that sense. Now, compound interest is a little different. Start with that $100. You've got $1 that's added to it. Your value is now at $101. Now, the next year, you're starting at $101. So you're getting just a little bit more each year because it's growing each year. And just depending upon where you go, the interest rate that you have, there's many different tools and things out there. They may pay a little bit higher interest, but the trade-off is really can't touch it, like a certificate of deposit, like a CD. A lot of times you'll have a higher interest rate, but you have to keep it in that tool for say 12 months or 14 months, whatever term that you think about. At the end of that time, they're going to tell you how much you've earned. You haven't been able to touch it. You can't use it for overdraft protection. It's strictly there to save. And at the end of that term, you can negotiate. You want to extend it. You want to choose a new term. You want to choose a rate, depending upon what's available. Just another example of ways to save if you're able to save money. So strategy to being a successful saver. Paying yourself first. It's important as paying rent or electricity bill. A lot of times we say, if you have that deposit, you get a direct deposit, or you're making a deposit into your account, I would suggest just doing you can do your automatic transfer, or if you're getting a direct deposit, working for an employer, you can have them allocate a small amount of funds to go into a savings account that you may not even see, but that builds over time. And for me personally, if I don't see it, I can let it build. Sometimes if I see it building, I'm tempted to touch it, and I don't need to touch it. That's why I said my wife is the financial person in our household. It's a trade-off. Work together. You set up an automatic deposit into a savings account. What you don't see, you won't spend. That's what I was talking about. But start as early as you can. It doesn't have to be $50. It doesn't have to be $100. Just like what we said, $10. It could be $5. Starting at some point. That's it. You start at some point, save along the way. That way you can allocate funds for hiccups. You can allocate funds for a trip that you're saving up for, down payment on a home, buying a new car. These savings is the best way to do that, as opposed to, we'll talk about credit in the next segment, and borrowing money, the way that we are able to help pay off some debts and do different things. But when you use your own money, there's nothing better than using your own money, because you don't have to pay anybody back. It's your money. And that's why we try to talk about being a successful saver during this time. So savings goals and planning, what do you want to achieve? What are your financial goals? How much will you need for your goals? So these are questions that when you go in and you're opening a checking, the first thing that they're going to ask, go to the right financial institution. They'll ask, what are you trying to achieve? What are your goals? It's not sell, buy this. What are you trying to achieve? Because if you have a thought process of what you're trying to do, what you're trying to save for, what you're trying to do for your future, then the banker is also going to put you in the best tools and resources to help you achieve that goal. And that's what our job is, to ask these questions to put you in the right tools to achieve that goal. What are your financial goals, and how much will you need for your goals? We can work through that and help to calculate that for you. So savings options at most financial institutions, you got the basic savings account. Now think about a savings account, whether you all have one or not, there's restrictions on how many times and how often that you can pull funds out of it. You know why? Just that you're not spending it. That's why it's not a checking account. Checking account is linked to a card, swipe it, buying this, doing that, and it's coming out quick. Savings account, the purpose is to be there. Interest is usually a little bit better on those accounts. And you can actually save for the future. And you can look at it and see how much you're saving. Now, savings accounts, the interest rates aren't as high as what they used to be, but you never know. You know, there are a lot of things happening around us in the economy and so forth. So there are other modes of saving that the bank can instruct you with. And just like I talked about a CD or particular deposit, it's also a health savings account. This is best for medical expenses. So if you, especially if you've got kids, we have one for my family. A lot of prescriptions, a lot of co-pays, and there are tax advantages to setting funds aside ahead of time to help cover what you think is going to happen as far as normal activity comes to your health. So talk to your banker about that. And then IRAs, again, they're best for long-term goals like retirement. They're positive tax implications in reference to IRAs, whether it's a short-term tax or long-term when you split out at the very end. And your banker can break that down for you in the specifics depending upon how it is for their financials. And with that, we've come towards the end of this segment because the next up is credit. Credit is $1 million question. And we wanted to make sure that we can devote plenty of time to talk about credit, what it is, why we need it. And I've even got a couple of stories. My own son asked me about credit last weekend. He's 10 years old, the youngest. Where did you even hear that? Oh, you didn't hear it at church? Why y'all talking about credit and credit card at that time? But I had to break it down. So come back next week as we talk about credit and break it down, and hopefully we can impart some great tools and tips that you can walk away with to help you with your financial future. So I'll pause right there. If there are any questions out there, Jessica, I don't know if you're still on the line, if you wanted to chime in and just say a few words as well.
I am here. Thank you, Vincent. Everything was awesome on there that you were saying. We were chiming in into the chat, having your back there. But one thing that I did want to mention, Nathaniel asked how much advice along these lines is free when you have an account at Truist, for example. All of it. All of it. You come and see someone like me in the branch or my bankers, and we sit down with you, we schedule appointments. We can go over all of this. We can help you with your budgets. We can help you put it together. And we also have on our Truist website, it's called Money and Mindset. Same thing, same process. So if you wanted to go on it virtually at home, you didn't have time because you're starting your business and your side hustle, you can do that at your own pace as well.
Thank you, Jessica, for that. Phenomenal advice. And Money and Mindset, that's also where you can find, if you don't get the email, you can find the spreadsheet that I referenced well in reference to budgeting. But I highly recommend it because it's like, it's pausing and just taking a look at what's happening in your own household and how we can do a little different in our activities and be a little different, save during this time, but also saving during this time. So we're grateful for just these nuggets. If there's additional questions that you have for us after we get off of the segment, please feel free to reach out. And again, we'll be back next week. I'll be on, Jessica will be on. We'll have another teammate on as well. And that'll be kind of the finale. Credit is a finale. Credit doesn't have to be a bad word. Credit is a good finale. We can talk about credit as building up and saving for our own future. So I thank you all once again. And Nathaniel, I'll turn it back over to you for any final questions or thoughts. Kaylin, if you wanted to say a few words as well.
Thank you so much, Vincent. I just wanted to ask real quick, Jessica, you are in the Triangle area, right? You are in the Durham branch, is that correct?
Yes, I'm right in the middle of everything. So if you're in Chapel Hill, Raleigh, Durham, Mooresville, Cary, you can reach me within 15 minutes of all of those. I am on Miami Boulevard in Durham, right in the middle of Research Triangle Park.
All right. And I don't see any questions, so I'm just going to throw in a last. I just wanted to, we like to focus on making a budget when you're thinking about starting a business, right? Because of what you're going to need to spend, and getting a loan is very hard when you're starting. But I like to tie it into this personal finance, that you can maybe you have an idea to start a business 2 years in the future, right? Start that savings now for that business and create that plan. I mean, we talk about business plan all the time. So the whole idea, I mean, what I'm trying to get at is personal finance and business finance. There's a lot of interplay, and planning to start a business now instead of in the future with your savings, with a rainy day fund, with some money prepared for a down payment if that's what you need for a loan. You're going to be in a very different place than if you say, hey, let me check out the SBA, let me see what they're offering. When you go as a brand new business to get a loan, I'm sure you guys can attest to this. A bank isn't really going to look at you until you got a track record. So if you've at least started saving personally, you're in a very different place to start a business, and you're also in a different mental place and planning place, right? I appreciate. Go ahead.
Nathaniel, I'd add on to that just from the planning point of view. And when my wife started her, she does a small bag company and made out of wool felt. Really, really kind of, it's her creative outlet, but it was also just a side hustle for us to have some extra spend to go on vacations for. So we try to line up. If we've got a goal in mind, how can we save up for that? Or to what Vincent was covering earlier, of how to, increase passive income or other income that we have from the side hustle. So doing that, but, it started for us of what we wanted to accomplish from that goal, but also what we could expect to have in income. Because I think that's the thing, is like, how many bags do I want to sell? How many people do I want to reach? And then start from there. I can build out the operations of it. Like, how much inventory do we need from here, and start looking line item by line item of what that would mean for the business. And then also planning for taxes. Like, I just keep wanting to throw that out there as, if we've got any people that do 1099, that would be contractors within of themselves, to really think through within your budget, not just on an annual basis, but on a quarterly basis. A lot of, if you're Ubering, if you're doing any gig economies, if you're working as a contractor, period, as, a software developer, really look at where you are quarter to quarter and put at least, I think it's like 25-30% away. But just make sure that you're aligned and you've got some tax expert to talk to if you're going through that, because it's a big, it may not seem like it's a big budget item month over month, but when it comes, I guess, last week on April 15th, you don't want to have, a $10,000 bill at the end of the year. So just keep that as a budgeting item in the back of our head.
Absolutely. There's somebody said budget for growth and budget for for these unexpected things that come out in a yearly expense. It's terrible to pull out the $600 you owe to the North Carolina Department of Revenue all at once, right? But when you saved it, I think the $600 a year was $50 a month, right? If you put $50 a month away, that hurts a lot less. So talk to us about your business plan. Talk to us about your budget. Get with Truist. we're doing more of these. We have one next week. If you're here, I would take advantage of it. Credit is probably one of the biggest ones. And I think it's the biggest one that relates directly to starting a business, because your personal credit has a lot to do with your ability to get funded in the beginning. It also will impact you later on in your business. And it's also applies to how a business builds credit. So take advantage of that. Spend some time with us. I will send out the info that Vincent mentioned, the Excel sheet with the recording and other information from this session. And if it's okay with you guys, I'll send it to whoever registered as well, even if they weren't on this call.
Yep.
All right. All right. If there's no questions, we're going to end early. You can get a dessert and not be worried about this. Take care. Thank you all. Thank you, Jessica, Kaylin, and Vincent. Thank you all for being with us, and have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thank you all. Take care.
Take care.